So welcome once again to my channel. My name is Lucky and I am your favorite tutor, your favorite IELTS tutor. Now, if you're just joining in, please endeavor to subscribe and follow this channel. So today we're going to be looking at the IELTS reading. Now, I'm going to ask a very simple question. What is reading? Reading is the ability to comprehend or, let's say, to understand written information. Now, sometimes people read but often do not understand certain manuscript that they read. Now, this is as a result of the fact that there are a lot of challenges that you can find. For example, ambiguity in vocabulary and maybe distractions. And sometimes these distractions can be very intense, that if you can't control the mind, it can actually affect the ability to comprehend. Now, I always tell my students, I said, if you do not comprehend or you can't comprehend, then reading hasn't happened. Comprehension is a very vital part of reading, and if you can't comprehend properly, then reading hasn't what happened. Now, for the IELTS reading, there are a lot of things that we need to put into consideration. First thing is the fact that you're going to be reading what a very lengthy word passage. Now, let's talk about the basis. What are the things that you're going to see in the IELTS reading? The reading is for 1 hour, which means it is 60 minutes, and each passage comes with a lot of paragraphs. Now, you are going to go through the passage. Now, first off, you need to understand that it has different parts. It comes in 3 parts. The reading comes in 3 parts. Part 1, Part 2, Part 3. So each part comes with a lengthy passage, a reading passage, and several questions. Now, but in all, you're going to be attempting 40 questions. 40 questions in all. And each of these questions comes with question types. Now, the reading has different question types, and that's the thing that we need to take into consideration again as well while we are trying to do the reading. Now, there are several things that you should know. Before we get to the question types, there's several things you should know. Several things you should know about the reading. Some certain skills that is required to attempt the reading module. Now, first of all, you should always read instruction. Reading instruction is very key. It's a vital thing for the IELTS. So if you do not read instruction, you might likely miss the kind of question type that you are doing. Now, instruction tells you the question types you are doing, the type of question you are going to attempt, and then it also tells you how to attempt that question. So it's important that you will read instruction. Another thing is that you should be able to analyze your question. Analyze your question correctly to know the type of question you are doing, and then also know what the question is asking you to do. Now, for the reading, I always say sometimes they don't really ask questions. The IELTS don't really ask questions when it comes to reading. They make statements, and these statements are statements are quite different from questions. Now, a question comes with a question mark. Statements comes with an exclamation or a full stop. Now, it's important that you know the difference. Now, for most of these questions, they're going to be making statements, and they're going to probably ask you to identify if this statement is actually correct with the passage. And that's where some kind of question comes into play. And you need to understand these question types. Now, apart from the fact that you need to analyze your question, you also need to know how to skim and scan. Skimming and scanning is a very vital part of the reading module. You need to apply that ability to skim and scan. A lot of time people say, oh, they know what skim and scanning is, but skimming is actually the ability to read first and last statement of each paragraph to get an overview of what the paragraph is about. And scanning is actually, after skimming, you look at your question and then go to the paragraph that you think that information is in, and then start to search for the answer. Very importantly, searching or scanning is the same thing as searching. And if you have ever used one of those TV, the old model kind of TV, you see that most times when you want to look for local channels, they will tell you scanning. So it means it's searching for a channel. So the same thing you do with the reading, you scan for your answers. Now, when you scan, you are expected to use keywords or key sentences. Now, these keywords or key sentences are supposed to be derived from your question. So it's important that when you look at the questions, you look at the keywords or some keywords or key sentences that is in the question to be able to find your what answer. Another thing is that you need to understand paraphrasing, not just paraphrasing, deep paraphrasing. Paraphrasing in terms of. All right, so let's quickly get to the question types. Now, remember, you need to keep these skills that you need to answer the reading module on always practicing them. For example, you have to keep practicing your skimming and scanning, and then you have to always understand the structure of the IELTS is very important. The structure is key. Now let's talk about the question types. Now the IELTS has about 11 question types that comes with it. Now each question types has a different approach to it in terms of how you answer the questions. So, but firstly, let's just have a glimpse of the kind of questions you're expected to see. Now, I'm going to make a list of them. There are some of the questions that follow sequence, meaning chronological order in terms of numbers, questions, and paragraphing are in sync. But there are some questions that do not follow sequence. When we dive into this kind of practical section of these questions, you're going to see the ones that do not follow sequence and the one that follow sequence. Now, the first one, we have the true, false, not given. We have the yes, no, not given. We have the flow chart. We have table completion. We have diagram. We have sentence completion. We have matching information with paragraph. We have multiple choice. We have summary completion. We have note completion. We have matching heading, and then we have. Okay, I think basically that's it. We have 11 question types in the reading module. So it is important that you understand the structure of the exam. For example, each part comes with about 13 to 14 questions. But in all, like I said, you're going to be answering 40 questions. So let's quickly dive into the first question type of the day. I'm going to start with the sentence completion. So it's from the name or from the way it sounds, you should have an idea that you're going to be completing what sentences. So like I said, always reading instruction. Instruction helps to tell you about the question type you're about to answer. So in this video, I'm going to do a little practical section. So come with me as I make a little demonstration of the sentence completion. So it's something that you need to follow me step by step, and we are going to arrive at our answer, and perhaps I'm going to also check the answers, and then let's see if we are correct. And then in the next module, in the next video, I'm going to analyze another type of question, and that's how I'm going to do for the 11 question types. For I'm going to put it in a series, so just endeavor to follow, like, and subscribe to my channel. I'll see you. All right, let's dive into the question type. Okay, so the first question type we're going to look at here is sentence completion. Remember I said that the reading comes in different question types. So one of the question types that we're going to look at now is sentence completion. One thing you should take or bear in mind is that always read instruction for every question. Now, if you look at this, you will see that this is more like a simulation of what you have in the re-exam. This is a simulation of the exam. If you check up here, you see that there's a timer that's already timing us for everything that we're doing. Now, take note. This is the passage, and on the other side of the computer, we have the question. So you can observe the question on this other end. So that being said, we're going to dive into sentence completion. Now, one thing that is very important is that when you look at the question, the instruction tells you the type of question you are about to do. Look at this. It says complete the sentences. Now, that shows that what you're about to do is to complete the sentences. It means that it's a sentence completion type of question. So it's important that you take note of that. Now, don't just stop there. The next thing to do is to read the instruction that follows. Now, it says write one word only from the text in each gap. What this means is that you should what? Pick one word from this whole text, meaning as you're reading it, the whole text down, you are going to pick one word to complete each of these sentences. So it's simple. Like I said, one thing is important in the IELTS reading, paraphrasing. If you do not know how to paraphrase, then you're going to struggle with a lot of how to get your answer or find your answers. So very importantly, I'm going to be showing you how to paraphrase. And now let's not forget the keywords. Like I said earlier, the question is really important. The question is more important even than the what's it called, the passage that you're reading. Another thing is that you do not have a lot of time to start reading the passage and coming to look for answers. So it is important to employ the ability to skim and scan. And when you're skimming and scanning, it is advised that you what? Pay attention to words that are paraphrased. Paraphrasing is a synchronon. So let's look at this. Remember they said we should use what? One word only. Very important. Now, the first question comes. Before we even go to the question, let's look at the heading of the write-up that we're doing. The heading says writing a personal CV that will attract employers. Writing a personal CV that will attract employers. Now, for every passage you're going to read, take note that the heading is very important because the heading is more like a theme. It gives you an overview or an idea of what the whole passage is about. So, by virtue of this heading, you can tell that they are going to be asking you, or you're going to be seeing any things on CV writing that can attract your employer. So possibly some certain things you need to put in your CV to attract your employers, and everything about this whole write-up is going to be on that topic. So you have a wide range of idea of what they are going to be talking about. Good. So in that case, you already have like a clue to what the whole passage is about from the heading. Now, let's not forget I said we're going to be using keywords to analyze our questions and also trying to find it. Like I said, this kind of question goes in sequence. So what it means, I'm going to show you right now what I mean when I say it goes in sequence. It means that your question 1, or sorry, the question 15 might likely be in your paragraph 1. That is what it means. And then your question 16 might likely come under the same paragraph 1 or in your paragraph 2. So quickly, let's work together. Let me explain this to you. All right, the first question says what? It said many job applicants do not dare to reveal in a CV what their read dash is. Many job applicants do not dare to reveal in their CV what their read dash is. Now, let's look at this question. Many job applicants. Many job applicants. That's the first keyword. Now from the verb, do not dare to reveal. Do not dare to reveal. Do not dare to reveal. Or you can just add do not dare to reveal in their CV. Good. Do not dare to reveal in their CV. So we're looking for key sentences. What their real dash is. What their real dash is. So that's what we're looking for. We're looking for 3 information now. So what does it mean? Applicants, we're looking for what applicants, many job applicants. Now, what they do not reveal in their CV. All right? There's something that they do not reveal in their CV. That's what you're looking for. That's the word you're looking for. Now, if you go to the passage, you see this. Let's start from the beginning. It says, you are unique. No one has the same behavioral makeup that you have. Likewise, everyone's career's history is also unique. Why is it then that a great many CVs are mostly descriptions of past jobs or standard CV templates and give away very little about the individual behind the CV? It now came down to say it is almost as let's underline this, as if majority of job seekers, now take note of this, it is almost as if majority of job seekers see this is the same thing as many job applicants. It is almost as if majority of job seekers is the same thing paraphrased as many job applicants. Now, if you look at this part, are afraid to let their own personality shine through. Are afraid to let their own personalities shine through. Now, look at the word. Do not dare to reveal in your CV what their real dash is. Now, take note. They're talking in the preceding statement here when it says what? CVs are mostly description of past jobs or standard CV templates and give away very little about the individual behind the CV. Now you could tell that what they're talking about is a CV template. So if we already have the CV template, so it's saying it's almost as if the majority of the job seekers are afraid to let their own personality shine through in their CV. Now, imagine. So what are they not really showing? The word here should be what? Personality. Did you see that? So what are they not allowing to shine through? You now figure out that word. It should be personality. So you put in your word here, personality. All right. So we've seen number 15. So let's go to 16. So you can tell that it goes in sequence. Now, it says here, CVs are likely to appear dash to the reader. Oh, okay, that's not, let's start from the pointer. Did you see the pointer? Good. It said, if applicants do not include what makes them distinctive, their CV are likely to appear dash to the reader. If applicants do not include what makes them distinctive, that's the first key sentence we're looking for. If applicants do not include what makes them distinctive, let's highlight. What's going to happen? Their CV may likely appear dash. So you see that you're looking for to the reader. How is it going to appear to the reader? That's what we're looking for. The CV is going to appear somehow to the reader. So have in mind that your CV has to appear in a way to the reader. So that way it's going to appear is what would be your answer. So let's go. It said perhaps In the corporate world, where everyone feels they have to what? Have the same professional image. Dress in dark, formal suits. For example, the same is subconsciously felt to be true for CV writing. But there's a difficulty here. It said you want your CV to stand out, and yet at the same time are afraid of saying anything that might make you stand out. So now, if applicants do not include what makes them distinctive, did you see that? The problem is, now take note from it. The problem is about, okay, where did we see that now? Okay, here it said, but there is difficulty here. So there's a colon, which means they want to emphasize more. Now, what does it say for that? It says you want your CV to stand out, and yet at the same time you're afraid of saying anything that might make you stand out. It's a question mark. Are you seeing that? There's a question mark there. So what does this statement mean? This statement is simply saying if applicants do not include what makes them distinctive, that's what it's saying. That's what that statement is saying. So you want your CV to stand out, and yet at the same time are afraid of saying anything that might make you stand out. It's simply saying if applicants do not include what makes them distinctive. Now it goes on to say what? The problem with this above thinking is painfully clear. Your CV will be what? Dull. Your CV will be what? Dull. Not just dull, take note now, it says unlikely to be swiftly passed over by an what? Employee, an employer. Your employer is your reader. Don't forget that. The employer is your reader. So how is the CV going to sound? CV is going to sound what? Dull. Or is going to appear what? Dull. Now, dull is the word that you're going to use here. Now, let's go to the next one. It says, applicants need to find ways to define the dash that makes them do well in their work. Applicant needs to find ways to define the dash that makes them do well in their work. So, take note of that again. Applicant needs to find a way to define something. Something that makes them what? Do well in their work. So you need to look for that thing that makes them do well in their work, and that thing becomes the answer. So let's go to the next one. It said, we'll continue from there. It says, surely it is much better to be brave. Surely it is more better to be what? Brave. To define your personal brand. Now look at the word define. It's appearing here again. To define your personal what? Brand. So let's highlight that. To define a personal brand. As marketers might say, this isn't about making unsupportable statements. It's about choosing words that describe what? It is about choosing words that describe the what? It's about choosing words that describe the qualities that drive your success. So applicants need to find ways to define the quality that makes them do well in their work. Do well, makes them do well in their work is the same thing as success. Makes them do well in the work is the same thing as what? That drives you, that drives your success. That drives your success. So at the end of the day, the word between is qualities. So qualities become what? Our answers. Qualities. Okay. So let's go to the next one. It can be helpful for applicants to try to base a consideration of themselves on the dash of others. It can be helpful for applicants to try to base a consideration of themselves on the dash of others. All right, so what can be helpful? It can be helpful for applicants to try to base their consideration a consideration of themselves on the dash of others. So the whole sentence here is our keyword. It can be helpful for applicants to try to base a consideration of themselves on the dash of others. So let's look at it. It says, in short, what makes you good at your job? All right, so obviously we'll have to get to the next paragraph. It said, writing about oneself can sometimes be difficult. It involves the ability to see yourself from different people's what? Viewpoint. Take note of that. To see yourself from different people's viewpoint. So if you say it can be helpful for applicants to try to base consideration of themselves on the dash of others. So to see yourself from different people's viewpoint. So the word is viewpoint. Viewpoints. Make sure you write it the same way it is written in the passage, please, and avoid spelling errors. All right, so let's go to the next one. Requesting the input of a dependable dash can help an applicant work out of their own good point. Requesting, what you're looking out for is maybe asking, because they will always what? Paraphrase. Requesting the input of a dependable dash, let's highlight that, can help an applicant work out their own good point. Can help an applicant work out their own good point. So what you're looking for is something that input that is requested. So that input, something. So we could say maybe it's a noun we are looking for. A noun. Requesting the input of a dependable. So by virtue, we're looking for a noun. All right. So let's observe. We're looking for ask, something that talk about asking, to ask. Okay, so we'll start from here where we stop. Working with a professional CV writer is one way to achieve that and to present your character possibly with what? Within a CV. Good. So I told you are looking for something like ask. So this is asking. Have you seen that? Asking what? A colleague. So asking a colleague that you trust, that is what? Requesting the input of a dependable colleague. Did you see that? It said can help an applicant work out their own good point. It said it's also good, is it also a good way to find out how others see your strength. So you see, so colleague becomes our what? Answer. Colleague becomes our answer. Okay, and finally, let's have the last one. Let's have the last one. It says, it is best to avoid the dash used by many applicants when describing themselves in a CV. It is best to avoid the dash used by many applicants when describing themselves in a CV. So, I'm sure what we are also looking for here is what? Maybe a verb. So let's see. It is best to avoid. So it is best to avoid key sentence. What are we avoiding? Something that is used by many other applicants when describing themselves in a CV. So what is that thing that we are avoiding that other applicants use in their CV that you have to avoid? So let's read the last paragraph. It says, try not to use classic what? Recruitment what? Cliches. Did you see that? But you can't conclude that that's what we're looking for yet. So let's continue from there. So we'll have to read it properly to get it clear. It said, try not to use classic recruitment what? Cliches. Everyone says they have great communication or organization skill. These get ignored by recruiters. So you see, what are the cliches that people say they have? Communication or organizational skills. So they said you should avoid using such cliches. So, but then you can't say organization skill is your answer or communication. Do you hear that? They are both embedded in the word what? Cliche. So cliche becomes your answer. So it is best to avoid the cliche used by what? Used by many applicants when describing themselves in a CV. So best way, if you can highlight, if you can copy and paste, it will be better for you. So this is how you attempt sentence completion, and at the end of the day you find out that you are done within a short time, and you're probably going to get all your answers correctly. So let's review, let's check our answers. We did 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. So let's answer, let's see. So we are supposed to have 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. We're supposed to have 6 over 40. If we should have 6 over, because we did 6 questions. This is just sentence completion. There are other question types we're going to look into. So see, basically we got all the sentence completion answers. So you can see that from here, we have reviewed them. All answers are complete and correct. Spellings are intact. So it's important that you take note of these things. The best way to attempt your questions is for you to be able to analyze your question correctly, find key sentences or keywords, and then be very, very conversant with paraphrasing and paraphrasing that is used in the passage and also used in the question. So in our next class, I'm going to talk about another question type, probably the true false not given, and I would emphasize on how you can, you know, try and figure that one out. So see you next time. Try to subscribe to my channel.